Well, I'm going to get started now. Obviously, it's 5 o'clock. Chris and Craig, welcome so much to the Everyday Adventure podcast. We haven't done many of these lives. We've done a few of them. And like I said, it's a lovely way to do it because it just allows it to be a little bit more fluid. And obviously, we've got a bit of a plan with your adventure as well and your challenge to see how we can try something a little bit different as well and do because usually like say we speak to people either before the challenge takes place and a bit of a build up, and maybe I'll come back to them sort of a year or so later. I did that with Preach Andy and spoke to her a year later, but with you guys it's like we're doing a pre-challenge and then hopefully catch up in a couple of weeks or so and do like actually how did it go, did everything that you thought was going to happen, what worked, what didn't work, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bored out by then as well,
Yeah. This is I give you a few days just to like recover the feeling in your fingers and toes. But for those of you who don't know me, don't know the podcast, my name's Nikki Bass. I am the host of the Everyday Adventure podcast. And usually, like I said, this is launched on a podcast platform, but today we're running an Instagram live with two amazing guests. We'll be doing a formal podcast with them as well. But I am thrilled to introduce Chris and Craig from, I don't know what the official title, 52 miles and 24 hours. I think that's what you're calling your challenge. They're going to give you a little bit more detail about what it is actually they're doing. I wouldn't normally do this sort of thing like on, Christmas Eve or, this late in the season, sort of plan to have down tools by now. But because of the timing of what they're doing and actually because of the challenge they're running, which is fairly epic, I thought absolutely it's worth us making the time to do this. So guys, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here. I'd love you just to introduce yourselves and a bit about you, a bit about the challenge you're doing and why you're doing it.
Sure. Do you want to start?
Okay, yeah. So my name's Craig Sharp. I'm based down in Dorset. I've been living here for 12 years now. I work in property development and I house lots of students. I met Chris through surfing mainly at Kimmeridge and Bournemouth, and we've travelled around the world together now, mainly to Asia and Indonesia. So we've got a good friendship. We did embark on a training sort of paddle to raise money for the Ukraines, and that was a year and a half ago.
It's about 2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So we paddled from Kimmeridge Bay all the way to Bournemouth, and that was like a 26-mile paddle.
Wow.
So it was like so that was good. And then I've ran multiple marathons. I go to the gym every day, so try and have that sort of healthy living as I'm getting older. And then, basically the reason we really wanted to do this challenge is to raise money for Diabetes UK. Unfortunately, my eldest son, Ashton, he got diagnosed with diabetes 2 years ago.
Wow.
And it's type 1. And, just to see this sort of pain he went through initially of injections and hospital visits and kind of him actually dealing with diabetes type 1 as a young person, and then as obviously myself as his father trying to look after him, learning all what foods to eat, insulin spikes. It's been a journey, and it's like I take my hat off to him because he's really pulled through now. So I just think we wanted to raise money for him, for the NHS, for diabetes, just show our appreciation really, and give something back.
Amazing. I mean, it's quite a challenge, I would say. I think Chris and I were chatting previously before setting up the recording for this. And I was saying that I've sort of I do a bit of surfing, nowhere in your league, I don't think. But I started doing surf lifesaving this year. And I can just about get from one groin to another on the. So for those people who know it, sort of down around Bournemouth and Dorset and Poole, that the beach is sort of split up in these sort of wooden jetty groins. And sometimes even just the pull of the tide one way or the other, and the undertow can be quite a lot. So to do 52 miles is a pretty epic challenge. Chris, I wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about, but why this particular challenge, and yeah, why so far?
So, like Craig said,
That's a good question.
Yeah, I have to ask it.
We'll be asking that around about halfway. So 2 years ago, when we came up with the idea of paddling from Kimmeridge to Bournemouth, there was a group of 10 of us that were going to go on a boat trip later that year to the Banyak Islands. When Russia invaded Ukraine and we saw the disaster that was happening on the border in terms of refugees, like no medical setups, we thought, right, well, we can do something positive here as a group. So we thought about doing a 24-hour event or a 12-hour event. And to start with, we were like, well, hey, we could lap Bournemouth Pier, just go round and round it for sort of 12 hours. And then we thought, well, hang on, why don't we go from one of the surf spots to the other surf spot? So we surfed the bench at Kimmeridge and we surfed the Bournemouth Pier when there's swell. So we thought we'd link up to do surf spots, and that was kind of like where the theme came from. 2 years ago, we did it on yellow rescue boards, so the surf life-saving boards. And it took us around about 12 hours to do 26 miles.
Gosh.
This time round, we've upped the ante with the kit. So we've got 14-foot ocean-going paddleboards now. Significantly faster. They're designed for what we're kind of trying to achieve here. And initially, Craig and I were talking about doing another challenge. So we've both, Craig's done marathons. I've done charity events in the Air Force before. And we were kind of thinking, hey, right, let's do something crazy. Let's go and paddle from here to Jersey. So that was the initial concept. And we were talking about that pretty much through the spring, weren't we?
Yeah.
Of like how we'd plan it. And the logistics for that would have been, that's a much longer project. So we're going to have to look at that over like the next few years to get, like the sort of permissions to cross shipping channels, to get an appropriate support boat. So we thought, well, we'll do another one like in the interim. And we were just talking and said, hey, why don't we just do double what we did before? Initially, we were going to do it in May.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, right. Like double. Initially, we were going to do it in May, and then we decided that actually we'd make it a little bit more challenging and do it in the depths of winter. Because I think that kind of more reflects everything that Craig's just talked about in terms of, for Ash, like the challenges that he faces day to day. I think we can put ourselves like in a bit more jeopardy if it raises a few more.
It's a lot harder. It's a lot more of a bigger event to do it this time of year. The cold, you've got everything against us really. So we thought, we'd roll up our sleeves and actually, celebrate Christmas afterwards.
Work off all the mince pies, God.
Some actually.
Yeah.
I don't even like mince pies. I don't know why I said that. I would just eat chocolate, but I would use it for an excuse for a lot of chocolate. I mean, I think you've alluded to it there already that, even when you come up with the idea for a challenge like this, I mean, often when I speak to people, they've completed the challenge and everyone's like, oh, there are a lot of challenges involved. Saying challenge a lot. There are a lot of, there can be a lot of obstacles involved in taking on a challenge like this itself, even getting to the point at which you can get started. And I was just wondering if you can give me an idea of some of the things because I can imagine there's been a huge amount of sort of behind the scenes organisation and preparation that's gone into this. What are some of the, I guess, not obstacles even that you've had to overcome, but maybe some of the things you've had to think about in terms of setting something up like this, and maybe something that you hadn't necessarily anticipated as well?
So I think one of the first things that we actually kind of identified when we were planning it was that looking at the tidal, we had an idea of the tidal flows from the previous challenge. So we knew that paying attention to them was quite key to success. And the timing of that meant that we would have to do quite a large portion of this at night, certainly if we're doing it on September, although we've brought that forward now to the 27th. So the challenge of paddling at night was something that on the face of it, we thought, okay, yeah, we can do that. But then things like navigation. Like the first time we paddled out from where we store the boards, so to the Pool Harbour entrance in the pitch black, it was a bit exciting, and it's definitely identified that we had to have like a really robust like nav solution. Which actually the simple solution was the best. We just got phones into the waterproof cases, and then draw a track line on Google Maps, and then make sure our blue dot follows that. But just something as simple as like how we're actually going to navigate at night paddleboards.
We've got to be careful we don't like go too close to the. As we pass Swanage, then we'll go around Dalston Head, and it's all sort of cliff, rocks, ledges. So we've got to be really careful there that we don't actually go too close to the coast.
Yeah.
Then take into account sort of tidal flow and all the rest of it. So we've got to be close, but not too close. Otherwise, we'll hit a rock. And
we were really lucky that so Chris Frost stepped up and offered a support boat. Gosh. So we've got a 7-metre rib that he's almost doing an endurance event of his own by him and Mike are going to be on the boat for sort of 18 hours while we're in the water. So I don't know which one I'd rather do, to be honest.
It might be quite boring for them.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Well, hopefully it will be quite boring for them. I mean, I guess that's one of the things.
They might.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. When we go around those headlands, we've really focused on the safety element of this, because what we don't want to be doing is like raising money for a charity, but then causing other like agencies hassle by calling them out, especially this time of year. So what we'll be doing is sending the rib ahead when we get to sort of Peveril Point, Durlston Point, just to check what's going on in terms of swell wrapping around the points and races. And then the really like treacherous one is St Albans. Okay. So there's quite a heavy race that comes off the overflow there. When we did it 2 years ago, we were meant to meet the support boat around about Chapman's Pool, and they were struggling to make headway in the race. Even though it was perfectly calm, flat water, the tidal race was about 6 foot, wasn't it?
Yes.
The boat was kind of disappearing in and out of the race.
We have to time that right, otherwise we could be paddling against the tide for nothing.
Yeah.
It could take us hours.
Yeah.
And how do you, because one of the things I was just thinking, I guess if you've got waves or chop or anything like that, like just keeping eyes on each other, I mean, how do you manage that whilst looking forward and concentrating your own paddling too, especially in the dark?
Yeah, in the dark we've got head torches. Yeah.
We might even tie ourselves to each other's boards, so if one goes off, then, at least I know he's going. I can tug him back.
I guess who's not putting in the effort as well. Yeah. Do that. It's like, come on.
And we've got
amazing. I mean, carry on.
Keeping an eye on us as well. So but that is one of the key like hazards that we've kind of identified, is that at night time, if we get separated, it could go bad pretty quick. So if there's any issues with the boat, then we'll just tie ourselves together. We got some floating line from West Quay, Chandlery. They were really, really generous and donated 30 foot of floating line for us. So we'll just tie the boards together and make sure we don't get separated.
We'll be
amazing. It sounds like, I mean, I love the way you're just so matter of fact about it, but it will be fine. I mean, I guess you have to be, and like you said, you've done that planning as well. And it sounds like you've been really well supported by the local community as well in terms of putting this together. I was just wondering, I mean, there's obviously the benefits, as you were talking about before, Craig, around raising money for Diabetes UK, obviously the personal, your personal connection through your son, and, and I suppose in a sense sort of bringing that story to wide, or elevating his story too and what he's achieved. I guess I'm just wondering, what would, I mean, obviously completing the challenge I'm pretty sure would look good for you, but in terms of what you would like to achieve more broadly through this challenge, what would if you sort of project to the future and think actually it would be amazing if this comes from it, sort of money and completing the challenge aside?
I suppose, just looking at Ashton, his side, I suppose it's just bringing more awareness to diabetes and, how serious it is, not just type 1, type 2. And I suppose, looking at a health side, the health benefits, how we eat, and just really just give these companies so much more support, because it's a really dangerous disease, and it's huge across the world. There's still, I know technology's advanced a lot with diabetes now. Like Ashton now has a little sensor on his arm.
Okay.
And then the sensor reads the pump. And if his insulin levels are low or high, then the pump automatically adjusts it. Oh. So it's a big step forward from the old injections. And then hopefully, there's more money out there, more resources, and it can actually be cured. There's all sorts of things with stem cell at the moment. They're looking at trying to cure diabetes with stem cell treatment. So I think, I suppose the small thing we're doing, hopefully it touches people's heart. They understand diabetes a bit more, and it can bring more awareness, really. That's my personal goal. And, and obviously to be a good dad to my son, and hopefully flourishes, and one day he has a cure for his diabetes.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I think, Chris, I mentioned this to you before as well, is that, diabetes is one of those illnesses or diseases that, that is talked about so much now. I think there, in terms of, it's often on the news, and we talk about the sort of health crisis, I guess, particularly around type 2. But I think probably if you asked most people, if they haven't necessarily had contact with it, actually, what does that involve? What does that look like? What does that mean on a day-to-day basis for someone? Actually, if you haven't got a direct connection with that, I certainly I speak for myself, that actually I probably wouldn't know. So I guess even having those sorts of conversations where you go, actually, this is what it involves for Ashton. This is what, our lives look like as a result, is huge in that space.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, massively. Before I met Craig, I didn't know much about diabetes, and then after the last challenge, we got to know Ash a bit more.
Yeah.
It was then that I sort of realised that how much it impacts people's lives, and it's been really interesting throughout this. Like you said, we've had so much support from the local community. So we'd be here for about 15 minutes if I list everyone that's lent in. But I've been amazed the number of people that, when we've said what we're doing, that are either diabetic or they know someone who is, either type 1 or type 2. In fact, the other day there was some pretty solid swell up in the northeast. So Craig and I go surfing up in Yorkshire sometimes, and I was at Whitby, and just there was a couple that were walking their dog on the beach. I was the only guy surfing there, and just got chatting, and I said, "Oh, hey, we're doing this challenge. Just check it out on Instagram." And she was like, "Yeah, my mum's type 1 diabetic." So
wow.
It's been amazing, how many people it affects.
And like you said, just that connection of starting that conversation even, and then realizing, oh, okay, yeah, no, that, like you said, it does affect so many people. And I would imagine probably impacts on people in different ways as well, depending on their age, how active or not they are and want to be too. So looking forward a couple of days now, I think you mentioned that the challenge is not far off. When are you thinking that, because I know that you've had to sort of be a little bit flexible depending on weather conditions and the water and that sort of thing. So what are your current thinking in terms of when this is likely to happen?
So we've been, as fate would happen,
checking it every day.
It's just fallen on the UK at the perfect time. So we've got between the 27th and the 29th with very slack winds, which does bring in cold temperatures. It's about 5 degrees, I think, 6 degrees. But it's almost perfect conditions for us, the 27th and 29th. So at the moment, we're planning on starting at 7 a.m. on the 27th to take advantage of the start of the window. Wow. If the day before it changes, then we'll just push it back a day. But at the moment, we're expecting to leave at 7, get to Kimmeridge around about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll probably leave Kimmeridge about 2:30, and then we'll be back to Bournemouth Pier around about, I think, about 9-10 o'clock.
We could go quicker though.
There's one little kicker. There's one little kicker as well, in that when I measured the route to start with, it 2 miles to Bournemouth Pier. It's actually a little bit short of that. So what we're going to do is, when we get to Bournemouth Pier, we're going to paddle past it to Boscombe Pier, and then come.
Wow.
We'll then have a little.
That would be the worst part.
That is not good, is it? No. Just in case you need a little bit of an extra, cheeky challenge towards the end of it. Oh my goodness.
And another 5k afterwards.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, anyone who wants to meet us at Bournemouth Pier, we'll jump out of the water there and have a coffee or something. But then we're going to have to paddle back into the harbour, so another 4 or 5 miles to the Royal Motor Yacht Club. So
oh gosh,
that's going to be doing that. So we've done that stretch of coast 3 times by the time we complete 52 miles.
Yeah.
But we don't want to if people are donating, we don't want to shortchange them. You'll get your 52 miles that you pay for.
Value for money. Wow. I mean, that it's so interesting, isn't it? That psychological piece, I think, around distance as well. I know that, that feeling when you're you think you're close to something and then someone goes, oh no, actually just, it's just over the top of that hill, and you get to the top of the hill and then there's another hill. I can imagine it's at least it's coming, so you can prepare for it.
One of the tricky things with doing distance in open water as well is that with the currents, we could be, even though we're still water paddling 52 miles, we might actually end up further due to being pulled back by the current. So
there's a lot of
just one of the unfortunate facts of
it could be zigzagging the whole way.
And if we have a crosswind, then during training we realised that actually paddling in a crosswind with these boards, so you said about the challenges to start with in terms of what did we identify? Well, carrying kit on the boards was quite an interesting one to crack. So we found there was a guy who did a world record attempt in Loch Ness, and similar boards. And what we've actually got is at the front of the board, there's the same fin that we'd have underneath to keep us straight is mounted on the front, and there's a fin box for it that the board's designed for. We've got water bottle carriers screwed onto that fin. But what that means is in a crosswind, we've now kind of got a
small sail,
a weather vane, so it just kind of tries to push the board always downwind. So if we have a crosswind, we're going to have to tack into the wind and then kind of go downwind and then tack into wind. So
hopefully no wind.
Fingers crossed. Yes, it could be the 100-mile challenge instead of the 50 mile.
Well, Strava will track it, right? So we'll see down tools.
I'm done. I don't need to do that extra leg to Boscombe anymore. Oh wow. So if anyone's listening to this and they want to follow your progress or find out more about what you're doing, I mean, where are you go? Where's the best place to go? Is it Instagram? Is there somewhere else that people can keep updated?
Instagram, right?
We're going to on Instagram, 52 miles 24 hours. We'll post, hopefully we're going to try and post a live Strava feed on there, but if it's not a live Strava feed, it will certainly be kind of snapshots of how we're doing as we go along the route. We're also, once we confirm our start time, we're also going to publish a kind of list of expected arrival times at different landmarks. So then if you come and watch the pain unfold, then
cheer you on. Yeah. No, awesome. Well, obviously, I'll post that all below here as well, and I'll pop it in the comments so that people can go and find you, and try and keep people updated in our stories as well, so that wherever they go, they can check in. But absolutely, I mean, if you are local and want to get out and actually go and cheer you guys on, absolutely. I'm sure that will be. I guess it probably is difficult to know whether you'll be able to see people much from where you are, and
I think so. Last time people came out to support us at Delston Head last time.
Awesome.
And that was quite good. And then down at the pier. In fact, when we got back to Bournemouth Pier, when we did the challenge 2 years ago, there was one Ukrainian guy who he'd been following us on socials, and his whole family were in a bunker in Kiev, watching like the updates as we were going, and he had this big Ukrainian flag. He was just walking down the beach while we were paddling. It was quite
incredible.
Yeah. So we touched somebody. So
yeah, that one thing made the whole thing, made the whole event worth it.
Yeah, and like you said, actually, even if you touch 1-2 people, if there's, you know, people listening to think, oh yeah, no, I want to find out more about this, or you know, just come along and support you. Actually, that makes such a huge difference. Guys, I'm conscious you've probably got quite a lot of preparation, not least your shopping. Craig, I think you said
no one's going to have any food.
Right.
So it'll be a very sparse Christmas. So I'll let you get on with it. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me this evening. It's really appreciated. I'm wishing you all the very best of luck with your challenge. I mean, it sounds like it'll be the most incredible experience. And like you said, what you're doing has such a sense of purpose as well. I'm really looking forward as well to catching up with you post-event, like you said, once you've thawed out a little bit, had a bit of downtime to find out how it got on. And like I said, I'll pop all the links so people can find you as well in the comments too. But yeah, very, very best of luck. And yeah, be cheering you on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be local at that time, but if not, I'll be cheering you on from afar, definitely.
Well, happy Christmas. Thanks for
you. And you. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.